We come today to celebrate the medieval liturgy of Tenebrae. Tenebrae is a Latin word that means darkness. We will hear tonight the account of those who spoke to Jesus on the day of his death. Let us begin with a prayer. On this dark day, as the shadows deepen, we come to be present with Jesus. With the glory of Palm Sunday behind us and the victory of Easter not yet come, we will sit together in this space with our broken hearts. In this world that is at once beautiful and holy and tragic, we seek to be present with all who suffer. In the dark valleys of life, when sorrow threatens to overwhelm, we long for a safe and sacred space to sit with our grief and our questions. Jesus Christ, holy friend, we know that you are here with us. Let us be here with you. Amen. Let us hear the words spoken to Jesus on this day.
Then Jesus came out wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said, "Look, here is the man." When they saw him, the leading priests and temple guards began shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" "Take him yourselves and crucify him," Pilate said. "I find him not guilty." The Jewish leaders replied, "By our law, he ought to die because he called himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was more frightened than ever. He took Jesus back into the headquarters again and asked him, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave no answer. "Why don't you talk to me?" Pilate demanded. "Don't you realize that I have the power to release or crucify you?" Then Jesus said, "You would have no power over me at all unless it were given to you from above. So the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin." Then Pilate tried to release him, but the Jewish leaders shouted, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who declares himself a king is a rebel against Caesar."
When they said this, Pilate brought Jesus out to them again. Then Pilate sat down on the judgment seat on the platform that is called the Stone Pavement. It was now about noon on the day of preparation for the Passover. And Pilate said to the people, "Look, here is your king." "Away with him," they yelled. "Away with him! Crucify him!" "What? Crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the leading priest shouted back. Then Pilate turned Jesus over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus away. Carrying the cross by himself, he went to the place called Place of the Skull. There they nailed him to the cross. 2 others were crucified with him, one on either side, with Jesus between them. And Pilate posted a sign on the cross that read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." The place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, so that many people could read it. Then the leading priest objected and said to Pilate, "Change it from the King of the Jews to 'He said, I am the King of the Jews.'" Pilate replied, "No. What I have written, I have written."
vastness, a great unchanger. All I am, a king of glory and of grace. One with himself, I cannot die. My soul is purchased by his blood. My life is hid with Christ on high, with Christ my Savior and my God, with Christ my Savior and my God. One with himself, I cannot die. My soul is purchased by his blood. My life is hid with Christ on high, with Christ my Savior and my God, with Christ my Savior and my God.
Mark 15, 16 through 24. The soldiers led Jesus away into the palace and called together the whole company of soldiers. They put a purple robe on him and twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on him. And they began to call out to him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Again and again they struck him on the head with a staff and spit on him. Falling on their knees, they paid homage to him. And when they had mocked him, they took off the purple robe and put on his own clothes. Then they led him out to crucify him. A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it, and they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get.
Your only Son, no sin to hide, but you have sent him from your side to walk upon this guilty sod, and to become the Lamb of God. Your gift of love they crucified, they laughed and scorned him as he died. The humble King they named abroad, and sacrificed the Lamb of God. Oh, Lamb of God, sweet Lamb of God, I love the holy Lamb of God. Oh, wash me in his precious blood, my Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God. I was so lost, I should have died, but you have brought me to your side, to be led by your staff and rod, and to be called the Lamb of God. Oh, Lamb of God, sweet Lamb of God, I love the holy Lamb of God. Oh, wash me in his precious blood,
It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." They crucified 2 rebels with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "So, you who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, come down from the cross and save yourself." In the same way, the chief priests and the teachers of the law mocked him among themselves. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. Let this Messiah, the King of Israel, come down now from the cross that we may see and believe." Those crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
John 19:25-27. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there, and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Dear woman, here is your son," and to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, this disciple took her into his home.
Jesus, keep me near the cross, there a precious fountain, free to all a healing stream, flows from Calvary's mountain. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. Near the cross, the trembling soul, love and mercy found me. There the bright and morning star shed its beams around me. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. Near the cross, O Lamb of God, bring its scenes before me. Help me walk from day to day with its shadow o'er me. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. Near the cross I'll watch and wait, hoping, trusting ever, till I reach the golden strand, just beyond the river. In the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river.
There was notice written above him, which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly. We are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you enter into your kingdom." Jesus answered, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise."
I know virtually nothing about him. I don't know where he's from. I don't know what kind of family he comes from. I don't know what part of Israel he hails from. I don't know if he was educated or trained in some kind of craft. I guess I do know at some point he made a wrong turn. Now, I don't want to judge. I don't know if that wrong turn came just because he was a bad seed or he was born out of some kind of oppression he was feeling. But something went awry. He falls into a life of crime. He finds himself judged and judged guilty and then sentenced to death on the cross. Now, what I know about death on a cross is it's reserved for the worst of the worst. So however he went awry, whatever wrong direction he went, it was bad. He's hung on the cross. 2 stations down is another criminal judged guilty for what he had done. And that criminal starts to mock the criminal who is placed between them, saying, if you are the King of the Jews, why don't you save yourself and me along with you? But the other criminal there, who I know nothing virtually about, says, don't you understand? Don't you see? I'm guilty of my crime. But this man, Jesus Christ, has done nothing to deserve this death. He confessed at that point who he was, a criminal worthy of the worst of worst punishments. Someone who believed that Jesus Christ was in fact who he said he was. And he requests that maybe sometime in the future, Jesus would remember him. Now, this is Jesus who was praying in the garden and had sweat drops of blood from what he was going through. Jesus who his friend absolutely had betrayed for silver. Jesus who had been torn from his disciples and then watched his disciples scatter. Jesus who had been condemned to a death he did not deserve. He was exhausted. He had been beaten. A crown of thorns that were probably 2 inches wide, dug into his forehead. And then the beatings would begin. Fists in the face and in the chest and in the ribs. Clubs over his head. Whipped. Until he virtually didn't even resemble himself physically anymore. And then a 100-pound beam put onto his shoulders. And he walks at 650 yards to the place where they would then drive 7-inch nails into his wrist and feet. And he was hung there between these 2 criminals. And at this point, when he encounters this thief next to him, he is exhausted to the point where it physically hurts for him to speak. And yet he musters up the strength to say, today you will be with me in paradise. Not sometime later, but today. You see, in this moment where he is absolutely beaten down and exhausted, he still sees something in this thief that thief will never be able to see in himself. In our human context, we can say, Jesus, it's okay. You can give up now. It's all right. What you've done, you tried. It just didn't work out. You have every right to give it up. But no, even in these moments, facing death, he is still the Savior of all mankind. He is still doing a salvific work with one individual. And then what happens next is quite grim. He becomes sin. He takes on the sin of the world to the point where his Father God, whose very essence is holy, has to look away, has to turn away. And then he dies. Luke's account says that everyone who was there left in sorrow. Even those who came out just to make sure it happened, even those who came out in support of this crucifixion, left with deep sorrow in the darkness. What happens over the next hours is quite remarkable because there's some behind the scenes workings going on. There's some things happening in the kingdom of heaven, and there's some spiritual warfare that's engaged in. All because Jesus Christ sees something in me that I will never see in myself. Jesus Christ sees something in each of us that we can never see in ourselves. Yes, we are experiencing sorrow in the darkness this Friday. But we know that the man who hung there after being beaten, left for dead, forsaken, and still musters the strength to save one man, will reign supreme as he has given salvation for the whosoever for all eternity. I wonder if we can just sit in that sorrow for a moment. I wonder if we can just sit in that loss. What it feels like to comprehend the weight that laid on him, that was there because of us. Jesus Christ is the Savior of all mankind. If we sit in that sorrow long enough, we realize just how sweet the defeat of death forever really is. The sting has been removed. The victory is his. We may sit in that sorrow for a time, but we know that a new day is coming. We know that the victory is ours because of him.
You are more mighty.
of God to us in Matthew chapter 27, verses 45 through 50. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing there heard this, they said, He's calling Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. And when Jesus cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit.
Matthew 27, verse 51. At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were risen from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. The Roman officer and the other soldiers at the crucifixion were terrified by the earthquake and all that had happened. They said, "This man truly was the Son of God." And many women who had come from Galilee with Jesus to care for him were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son to make a wretch His treasure. How great the pain of searing loss, the Father turns His face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon the cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart, His wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart, His wounds have paid my ransom. But this I know with all my heart, your wounds have paid my ransom.
Matthew 27, 57 through 61. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb.
Abide with me. Fast falls the eventide. The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, O help of the helpless, abide with me. Swift to its close, ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories fade away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changest not, abide with me. For the darkness will never overcome the one who calls on your name. By grace I am saved. By your grace. And though my fears are strong, you've said the words I long to hear. Your voice surrounds me. Abide with me. I fear no foe, with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight, and tears no bitterness. O death, where is your